Launch readiness for VM. DLC.
DLC go.
ECC. DC go. FTS. FTS go. OTM. GSC. GSC go. OME. OME go. COM. DPS. Go. Go.
Hey, welcome to NASA Edge.
An inside and outside look at all things NASA.
This is our special edition STS-125 vodcast.
We wanted to capture this real important story. We're here with Mike Weiss at NASA Goddard in the clean room. And actually, it's kind of an interesting story because back in September, right before Hubble SM4 launched, the Hubble science computer failed.
Right.
And I was sad. So I was in mourning, and I called Mike
You were shocked.
to express
Yes.
my condolences, if you will. And he surprised us with a lot of information. So Mike, what exactly did you and the Hubble team do when you were faced with this complex problem?
We were all loaded into Atlantis, all 22,300 pounds of our hardware. We were ready to go. It was 17 days from launch. It was a beautiful, spectacular fall day. We were all driving to the airport to fly to Houston for our very last simulation. And we got a call from our control center. It said, "We just think we had a hard failure on the science computer. You guys better turn around and come back to the control center." So we all jumped on our cell phones, called each other, and we decided almost everybody would go back to the control center and deal with that failure. A couple of us flew to Houston just so we could continue the simulation.
What actually does it do for the Hubble?
It is the thing that sends all the commands to the instruments and takes the science data and formats it and sends it back to the vehicle for transmission to the ground. So all the commands and all the data flow through the SIC and DH.
So in other words, without this device,
Without it, we could have a fully functioning spacecraft orbiting the Earth, but no science data flowing. And Hubble's got 5 science instruments on board. The agency made the instant decision to postpone the mission, give us a fighting chance of pulling the flight spare out of storage and getting it ready for flight. And the team instantly responded. We were pulling hardware out that very day. The folks in the water tank were looking at the procedures for doing this job. They were modifying hardware in real time at the water tank. I think it really demonstrates the real resiliency of this agency to respond to situations like this.
How long had that been in storage?
Since about 1992. That's when we took delivery of it. The flight spare was taken delivery in 1992. We absolutely didn't want to fly this mission and leave Hubble Space Telescope zero fault tolerant to science. There was just no way the agency could do that. So we took a little bit of time to figure out what we needed to do to reconfigure what we had for flight, get it tested, and then get it back down to Kennedy, and also figure out how to get it on board this flight and get it into the mission. That was no easy task. We knew that with a little extra time, the crew had a fighting chance of getting a little more efficient at doing their EVA task. We actually brought the crew up here once a month from September to now to continue training on the instrument repairs and on SIC and DH. So the team didn't stand down at all. We were plenty busy. We went back into the water tank 4 more times, continued to train, did a lot of testing here at Goddard on the SIC and DH, environmental testing, performance testing, brought the crew in here so they could see the actual flight hardware, take their flight tools, put them on the flight hardware. The crew went back into our hi-fi simulator and continued training on the ACS repair task. And we actually came up with a few creative ways to make that task go a little bit faster.
Take us through your mindset, and you get the word that there's a failure on Hubble. What is going through your mind at that point as a manager? How are we going to do this daunting task in just 7 months?
On one of our previous flights, we had a reaction wheel fail 3 months before the flight.
Okay.
And we managed to pull that out of storage, get it tested, actually flew it in the crew cabin and got that on board. It was actually the last mission. Right? SM3B, Mike Massimino did that task. We know this team knows how to respond very quickly, and we also know they are extremely creative. As a manager, we knew to just give our team time and let them think and let them work.
But the great thing about this mission is you have Mike Massimino, who is Astro Mike for your Twitter fans out there. So you have Mike Massimino and John Grunsfeld, who's actually serviced this Hubble before.
Twice.
So you've had some good experience out there, of course, with Scooter and Ray J as a pilot, and then, of course, Megan, Mike, and Drew, who are going to be the new astronauts.
Yeah. Which is, it's really interesting to think that they've gone through this before. I mean, is it a good idea to have Mike? I mean, maybe he's jinxing the whole thing. You know, don't tell him I said that.
Twitter from space.
He's tough. He's a tough guy. I mean, that's just a fantastic story, and that's why we wanted to come talk to you today because about this. Because in my mind, it was over. But it just goes to show that your team gets together, and the second you know, everybody just kind of pulls together and gets it done.
Yeah, they responded brilliantly, and they also came up with a way to get it on board our equipment, which was already down at Kennedy. We had taken it out of Atlantis. Fortunately, there was a physical spot on the Mule carrier, the multi-use logistics equipment carrier, the one that flies in the back. The folks at Kennedy figured out how to mechanically attach it. The folks here were testing it. The astronauts were training. The EVA folks were figuring out how to do the task, and we just walked through it. And at the end of the day, we delivered it early to Kennedy. We got it on board the Mule. The crew went down there and saw the flight hardware and flight configuration. And right now, our flight hardware's ready.
Hey, Mike, that was a fascinating story. Want to go head down to the launch?
You bet.
Let's go do it.
To Kennedy. You're watching NASA Edge.
An inside and outside look at all things NASA. Well, let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
Blair, luggage? Your luggage?
See you later.
Yeah, with all this luggage, you should try to squeeze some of this in the payload bay. Oh, that's not good. Thank goodness we're only going to Florida.
Hey, welcome back to NASA Edge.
An inside and outside look at all things NASA.
Hey, we're here to talk about an exciting program called HYTHIRM, and with us we have Debi Tomek, who is the project manager, and Tom Horvath, the principal investigator.
What is HYTHIRM? I mean, I did my research, but I'd like to hear what you guys have to say.
Yeah.
HYTHIRM is an acronym. We know we use a lot of acronyms with NASA, so of course we had to have one here, but our acronym stands for Hypersonic, Thermodynamic, Infrared Measurements.
Makes sense.
So what's that mean, Tom?
Well, actually, what we're trying to do is take a picture of the shuttle when it re-enters, where we can actually look at and infer from the picture how hot the vehicle was, measure its surface temperature.
Oh, wow. And what's the purpose of that?
After the Columbia accident investigation, we had a sensitivity to damage. The shuttle, the lower surface of the shuttle here is actually comprised of over 10,000 of these little individual tiles. They're actually bonded to the lower surface.
This is a non-damaged one.
Yeah,
Yes.
this is what protects the shuttle astronauts from the heat during
From the
entry.
heat, yes, okay.
Now, what's the difference between this tile and the one here? I see a protuberance.
That's the the doorstop version of the
Well-
Speed bump.
Speed bump, yes, very good.
Well, when these tiles are butted up against each other, it sits like this, and you don't even see this thermal barrier. But occasionally during launch, there's a lot of shaking, rocking, and rolling
Can't imagine that.
on the
What
set.
would be causing that?
And what happens is this gap filler will actually,
Gotcha.
come out
Okay.
into the flow, and we'll see that on orbit with the pictures. You guys have seen, a rock, a big boulder in the middle of a stream, and when the water level's really high, the water level's flowing over the rock, but it's still pretty smooth.
Okay.
But when the water level's really low, that boulder now sticks out out of the water and creates a lot of turbulence. White water.
Okay.
For a kayaker, they love that.
Right.
But for an aerothermal guy like myself,
Not
We're
such a good
astronauts.
thing.
We're not
We're an
happy about that
astronaut.
as media nuts and astronauts.
This is representing a gap filler.
A gap filler. We
Okay.
wanted to understand better what the flow was, how it was behaving with these gap fillers. You guys have heard in the media the gap filler problem. We even saw an EVA by Steve Robinson where they repaired one. So what we have done is we've called this the detailed test objective, a DTO, BLT, boundary layer transition, where HYTHIRM is a sister experiment to this BLT DTO. Sorry for all the acronyms.
BLT, I'm hungry now. We need lunch.
Boundary layer
That's a good call.
transition. Yeah.
Okay.
So what they've done is they've taken a tile, they've altered it, and put a fixed protuberance on there. It's a 1/4 inch.
the image
Correct.
you're looking at here was taken on a scaled model, about approximately that size, in our wind tunnels here at Langley.
Okay.
And we actually put a bump at model scale in the appropriate location on the wing.
Okay.
And this is actual data that we actually measured. This is what
From
the
a wind
camera
tunnel.
saw from a wind tunnel
Okay.
in our ground test facility.
I mean, I understand how you did that in a wind tunnel, but with STS-119, you're actually coming in and out of orbit.
Why did you guys demonstrate how you took that
Great,
picture?
yeah.
We
And I can fly the shuttle.
So the
Sure,
shuttle.
because I'm a skilled shuttle pilot.
you're going to be.
Yeah, I'll
oh.
be the shuttle.
Is this your first reentry?
No, I'm actually very skilled. I've done this in the simulator
Tom, you
many
okay with
times.
this?
Yeah.
And we have a
Okay.
scaled P3 Orion.
Now, granted, it is in the simulator.
You've undocked from the space station and you're getting ready to do the burn on the engines.
deorbit burn.
And so I do
coming
that.
in.
That sort of pitches me over like this.
Yes.
Right? I bleed off a little speed.
Right.
So you're initially at about, 400,000 feet,
Yes.
Coming in.
Okay.
Mach 25.
And now I want you to see
P3.
my good side. What's the P3 doing?
The P3 is coming in. It's running a racetrack pattern. It's at about 28,000 feet. You're at, right when it captures it, about 180,000 feet. You're coming in, it's
I come in
swinging
like this,
around.
yes.
What we do is we bring it around to what we call the closest approach.
Okay.
Now, all the cameras are right here on the starboard side of the P3.
Okay.
So all the cameras are now looking at the belly. At this point, we're probably 23 nautical miles
Well, so I was
away at this
curious
point.
about that because the scale isn't correct here, but
23 nautical miles, capturing the belly. It's kind of flying tandem with it.
yeah.
Capturing total of about 8 minutes. Now it's running kind of like a fat paperclip pattern. Racetrack pattern is what we'd call it. So we're still able to see the belly even then when it's out here. The cameras are still have somewhat of an optical view.
Now you mentioned that on the last mission where you actually got some data that it was there were weather concerns that allowed for a full even shot
Right.
here.
There were a lot of high cirrus clouds where we were at.
Okay.
So they were concerned that we weren't going to get anything.
Okay.
But the sky somewhat opened up. They were able to capture horizon to horizon, total of 9 minutes of video from the 180,000
Up
feet
here.
when you were up there,
Coming
running
down.
the racetrack, coming down, closest approach, 23 nautical miles, swing. And the nice thing about it is that we were able to see the belly the whole time.
The challenge really is if you think, Debbie, your aircraft is traveling, around 300 miles an hour. When the shuttle's flying overhead, and when we're looking at it at closest approach, the shuttle's traveling over in 1 second, over a mile.
Wow.
In 1 second. So
For this particular STS-119, we flew a one-orbit wave-off. So this crew had planned to run the racetrack down north of Cuba, South Key West. They had to deploy to a different location in less than 90 minutes because of the one orbit. So they had to change what they call their test support position. So they had to redeploy to that different location, then start that pattern up and wait for it to swing by, having been fed a whole new trajectory based on the one orbit wave-off. So the expertise of this crew flying this P3, you cannot, there's just nobody like them.
After this, at this stage, then the orbiter's off to land, and then where do you land?
And then the P3 also lands at Kennedy, where they call it the skid strip, or they land at Patrick Air Force Base. It depends on where there's availability. And then we have part of our HYTHIRM team is deployed down there also, and we upload the data from their data systems on board.
All right, well, I'm going to land back at the studio desk.
Thanks for that demonstration. That was pretty cool.
Orbiter landed
Great job, Dad.
safely, by the way.
Got the gear down.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
got the gear down. Everybody's home safe.
What did the data tell you compared to your wind tunnel data?
Oh, it was fantastic. I mean, I think within a few hours, Debbie holds up her cell phone,
Our very first image.
and
And what was so exciting was that the whole mission planning phase of it, we thought we were going to capture what you're seeing right there on that surface.
With the protuberance right
Correct,
here.
the turbulent wedge created by the fixed protuberance on the tile. What we saw in our very first images is that not only had we captured that, which was our stretch goal, but we had captured what we call an ABLT, an asymmetric boundary layer transition that was occurring.
something a very small imperfection, could be maybe something as small as 1/10 of an inch. And it caused an area of high temperature heating much larger than what you see on that wing. So most of the
Which we
vehicle,
did
this
not
other
expect
half
to
of the
see. It
vehicle.
encompassed, it enveloped the whole
Very
starboard wing.
dramatic. There are like a handful of thermocouples, temperature sensors, located at strategic spots on the bottom of the shuttle, and we're able to actually correlate, the appearance of, when this area of turbulence appeared, and we can actually see the orbiter deflect its control surfaces. There was never any safety of flight issue, but you can actually see the
To
shuttle
account for the
responding, the
shifts
computer
in the
sensing.
loading because of the
Yeah,
BLT, this
yeah.
asymmetric.
Now, the ABLT, did that affect your data at all that you were trying to look at?
Actually, no, it didn't. It was actually on the opposing wing. So the team viewed it as actually bonus data. So not only
Major bonus.
did we capture the turbulent, the heating temperatures within the flight experiment. But we actually now have data that we can go back and look at our tools to predict, when this occurs and when it does occur, how hot the shuttle gets.
How long did it take you to figure out kind of what it was that caused that? I mean,
Instantly. I mean, based on our ground-based tests, we've done a lot of testing that are similar to that. And I think some of the team thought that perhaps it was a sun reflection originally, but when Debbie...
That's what the cast glance crew thought at first, as they were capturing it. They thought it was just the sun reflecting off the surface. But now
Debbie pulled me aside and she showed me that image. I knew
secondary
right away
VLT.
what it was.
So HYTHIRM pretty much knocks one out of the ballpark on the STS-119.
On the first go-around.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
That's awesome.
And what's interesting, we just demoed the pattern of cast glance, but they actually, because they were able to have such a good optical view at those higher Machs, we actually see that ABLT develop and fully develop. It's a full transition over that trip.
Important.
And that's
important.
something that's never been captured before, that type of development.
To know when it happens and when it does happen, what is the area of influence.
I understand that you're going to be doing, not with the protuberance, but you're actually going to be imaging Atlantis in STS-125.
This time around, we're going to actually, in
different.
addition to the aircraft, we're going to actually have a land-based telescope.
Okay.
That will be sitting on the west coast of Florida.
Tricky part about HYTHIRM, we have all these optical assets and we get these trajectories fed to us the last minute and we've got to deploy them to the right spot.
I just see you guys in a F-150 driving around with a telescope on the back, and they're moving down the...
Pack it up.
Kind of like from the movie Twister.
Yeah,
Now
hit-
you're just trying
hit
to find the right
95.
spot.
A little
Yeah.
bit like that with the mobile
Yeah,
team.
that's right.
We should be on that team.
We
put you down there.
Maybe we should.
So we'll be seeing in the future HYTHIRM being involved in constellation launch, Ares 1-X perhaps, or eventually Ares 1 in general and Ares 5.
That is if Debbie and I do our job correctly.
Correct.
This is very exciting stuff, and I just want to give a shout out to Christina J. and the Inspire program, and Kirsten, who made the Inspire program, and even little McKinley, who wants to be an astronaut from Tennessee. Well, these guys don't just show up and get a job at NASA and are told what to do. They're inspired. They do this inspiring work, and these kids were inspired to eventually come in and do the kind of things you're doing for the space program. So thanks to you guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming out.
Glad we could talk about it.
And hopefully we'll maybe see some of you guys down at STS-125 launch.
That's right.
I'll be there.
All right, well, hopefully we'll catch up with you guys. And Mike Weiss, you're watching NASA Edge.
Hey, an inside and outside look at all things NASA.
I really want to get on that truck that's going around with the telescope.
No, I want So did Blair show you his new custom space telescope?
Yeah, he thinks because we work on Hubble that he can just ask for advice anytime.
Oh, there's Blair.
Hey, guys.
Dude, he's doing a little stargazing.
That's funny. No, I'm about to make some modifications to my telescope, but I'm a little concerned about violating the factory warranty and whatnot. So what do you think, Mike?
Well, I think it could definitely use some help. And, right about now, I'm thinking an NBL run.
Neutral buoyancy laboratory?
Yeah, the place where we practice procedures underwater. Ooh.
You think he can work underwater with that?
It works for our team in Houston, but you think he'll remember to come up for air?
Hey, as we stand here in front of pad 39A, we see the beautiful Atlantis right here on the pad. RSS rollout just took place. What are some thoughts you have?
Well, it's just an awesome feeling. Hubble's been a real roller coaster, ups and downs, ups and downs. This is a real up. We're going to Hubble for the last time. Such a magnificent vehicle right there on the launch pad. The payload's all ready to go. Next time anybody sees it, it'll be 304 nautical miles above our head. Two magnificent flying machines will be united for the very last time.
Right.
I think on a personal level, it's like sending a kid off to camp.
Right.
You drop your kid off, they go off and explore, you come pick them up, and it takes forever to extract out of them what their experiences were. Well, we're about to go pick our kid up and then drop them off for the very last time.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
And it'll probably take forever to figure out everything that Hubble has found.
Now, after the launch tomorrow, what's your role?
Those of us on the Hubble program that are here will immediately fly to Johnson Space Center. We'll be on console in the Hubble control room as flight controllers.
All right.
And then right before landing, a couple of us will fly back here to cover the landing event here at Kennedy.
Now, Mike, you've been working on Hubble for quite a while now. What's going to happen once Hubble is you completed your mission? Time to move on to another project that's It's gonna be a sad day, or?
It'll be sad and it'll be happy at the same time. You know, a lot of people say, you know, how do you feel? This is the end. I don't think this is the end at all. I think it's the beginning of what NASA does next. And NASA's going to go on with the exploration program. You know, we're going to go back to the moon. We're going to go beyond the moon. Hubble has always been a pathfinder. This is the beginning of what NASA does next. And we all get to see a bit of history tomorrow with the last mission to Hubble, one of the last flights of the United States Space Shuttle. You know, and then as we leave Hubble for the very last time, there'll probably be a lot of tears in people's eyes waving goodbye, but at the same time, it's the beginning of what we do next.
Hey, you ready for the launch?
Oh yeah, Ron gave me a camera. I'm covering it for NASA Edge exclusive.
Cool, we got a spot right here. Let's go.
Yeah, look, this is where everybody. No,
This is the best spot right
everybody thinks I got an angle, and I'm gonna go shoot it. Now trust
Where?
me, I've got a special spot. It's perfect. Just trust me on this, okay? I know what I'm doing. STS-125, right here on the cards, buddy.
I'm gonna go see Ron.
All right, you go do that. Ron gave me one of the prized NASA Edge cameras. I'm NASA Edge Cam 1 for the Hubble launch, shuttle launch. Oh yeah, it's... automatic. It's like anybody could shoot this kind of video. So I'm all set for the launch. I wish people would be quiet though. It's kind of hard to concentrate. Oh yeah, this is gonna be gold. Nobody saw this spot. Perfect for the launch. And looks like there are some fire ants around here, but I'm ready. I can take one for the team. I'm cramping up. I hope this happens soon. Oh yeah.
Hey, wasn't it a cool launch?
Well, I mean, I'm optimistic. I got it. Everything's right in line, so it should be. Yeah. Perfect. Where did the shuttle go?
Let's go see, right up there.
What? But it's still on the pad. How did... You sure you're not using some filters? That doesn't make sense.